As a child, you may see the sticker made in China or Germany or any country really. As a kid, I would always think that I was really special because I got a toy that was made from somewhere other than the US. However, if there are taxes on imports, for example, many of these children's toys would not be available, and there would also be a decline in what kinds of toys we see in stores. When the government decides to tax imports, it increases the price of products that are produced in the United States. This increase rises far enough to the point where it becomes the same price as products manufactured outside the US. Also, taxing more on imports would not be beneficial to the United States in selling more products to other countries. Products manufactured outside the US should not come with an additional tax because of the disruptions it would create in the economy. Many people may not understand the economics behind this issue. Imports are the bringing of goods or services into a country from abroad for sale, and tariffs are a tax or duty to be paid on a particular class of imports. In the past, we've seen how taxation has caused an uproar in society. For example, in the colonial days, when King George III taxed the American colonies, it created such a dispute that the colonists believed that they should be in charge of how they are taxed. President Trump would unlikely want a situation like that to occur again. Taxes on imports will result in the reduction of American profits. Many of the materials needed to make the products must come from the materials that we import from other countries. According to The Hill, the materials needed to allow the continuation of production come from half of the $2.2 trillion of the U.S. good imports. More than half of the money in the imports of the United States will choose to import the materials to another country. This causes profits of American companies to be reduced in half. Since imports would become more scarce, this would also affect the number of exports the United States has. A domino effect would occur, imports to exports, and then the decline in profits. Daniel Eichenson, director of Cato Institute, states that if a 10% tariff was established in the U.S., then the revenue decreases would be a profit reduction of $260 billion for U.S. good producers. There are an innumerable amount of steps in the production process of a good that a tax import could impact. For example, it interferes with the efficiency of a factory. Factories must be able to ship between different companies. However, when a tariff creates more time wasted between each factory. This tax plan has such a long-term impact on the U.S. and the future companies all over the world. Eichenson also believes that once people lose their job, they would also see their living costs rise, as a 10% tariff would also apply to the $1.1 trillion of imported consumer goods. The decrease in the amount of materials going into the United States will impact the number of people who lose their job. Without all the materials needed, production will be slower, so inevitably, some people will be let off their job. Even after they are let off from their job, the new import tax will result in an increase in living. Many products are manufactured throughout many places in the world, so when one country can no longer do their part, the production of that product is stalled until they can find a replacement. Since more money and time has gone into creating a new product, the price will inevitably be higher, which causes a rise in the cost of living. The United States also depends on foreign relations to assemble a variety of raw materials that can be used to produce different goods for the nation. For the United States to be the most productive nation, producers need to access competitively priced inputs. The U.S. needs to keep their reputation in a global standpoint in order to obtain the most affordable yet dependable materials in the world. Tariffs get in the way of what the nation wants to accomplish. The domestic production will be significantly lower due to the companies giving their goods to other countries. U.S. Speaker states in an interview, "Here's what the rest of the world does what we don't do. They take the tax of their exports and place a tax on their imports. We do the opposite. We tax our exports and don't tax our imports." U.S. Speaker Paul Ryan explained how the United States has a different policy for imports and exports. Ryan is taking the point he made and explaining that foreign companies do not have to pay a tax to import if a company sells a good to other countries but go into the United States. While companies outside the U.S. do not have to pay income taxes when they sell goods to the U.S., but they have to pay tariffs that are imposed. What Paul is saying is that we do not have to tax on imports. However, tariffs are a type of tax, so essentially it is false. Paul is trying to explain that there are no taxes, but he's trying to say it as a good thing. Paul knows that the taxes on imports are not a positive thing that the United States should do. Instead, he's trying to show that tariffs should not be allowed because he is exerting dominance in the world by showing we do not tax imports. Since the United States does not tax imports, Paul believes that we are the most dominant country in the world. As Republicans are trying to pass a new import tax, or is called the Border Adjustment Act. While this act will supposedly bring in more American jobs, this new plan, according to Fortune, will have American companies pay a new 20% tax on profits made from their sales, and a 10% tariff on all imports. This, however, will not help our economy because this will create an economy that is unstable. Although it will help reduce the imports the American gets, it will also reduce the amount of exports American has. The Cato Institute has demonstrated that the U.S. trade deficit is not an issue. However, President Trump's new import tax has the possibility of damaging it. Foreign countries see the United States as having a stable economy and trust that the U.S. will keep their savings protected. This new tax will not attract any new countries to invest in America, so as a nation, we should keep the positive reputation that we have while we still can. Throughout history, America has been changing our plans on imports into the United States. Now, in the 21st century, the way to positively impact the economy is to have no taxes on imports. Republicans may believe that this will benefit our unemployment rate by creating more jobs, but in the long run, it will cut companies' profits in America and will raise the price of produced products in the United States until it is essentially the same price as products produced in other countries. At the end of the day, America wants what's best for America, which means that there should be no taxes on imported goods. The way to keep America's economy at its finest, we must allow for all imports to come in freely. Globally, a tax on imports may create more chaos than we expect it will, because of the many uncertainties that lie within this tariff. Other countries may decide to import the materials that the United States needs in order to avoid a larger tax on imports. To allow America to make all products that are in our nation's capability is what the nation needs to strive for, because this will allow us to have the most amount of profit that is available to us. A tax on imports would only negatively affect our economy.